If he calls her his daughter, does she call him daddy?
What? Damn! What? Damn!
So today I wanted to try something different. I saw a video and the title interests me. So I just wanted to go over it with you. So let me know in a comment if you like it. So let's get started.
A year ago, I got married to the woman who I thought was the love of my life. Now, after fleeing the country, I have chosen to file for divorce and walk away from my marriage. From the betrayal to the death threats, the insults and the lawsuits, I'm gonna explain and show you guys why I ultimately made the decision to walk away from my marriage. I remember the first years of the relationship being some of the happiest in my life. I can't say exactly what it was that made me love my wife so much, but I just felt such a great sense of peace and love, not just from her, but from the whole entire church community. And I think that was a really big factor actually in me choosing to be with my wife, because I was so in love with the community and how they treated me and how they welcomed me with open arms. They sold me on all these amazing ideas of Jesus loves you, this is what Jesus would want. All the bad, negative stereotypes that I had about religion just went out the door. But I remember feeling a very strong sensation and feeling from God telling me that this woman was going to.
First thing first, that feeling was not God at all. You simply got bamboozled. If he said he had strong stereotypes for religions or things he didn't like about them, that would mean that he is new to Jesus Christ, especially if they are the ones who told you that he loves you, because every self-proclaimed Christian knows that. They all know that. Even experienced Christians know, because of their experience, that they don't even know when they don't know when it was a sign of God until after the fact, or because they prayed and fast to get a sign of God. This is a case of running ahead of God. So let's keep watching to see what he has in his mind and what happened.
Be my wife. And now I understand that the whole purpose of the marriage and the wedding was to bring my family back together again. My family came from the US, and I was able to resolve all the issues that I had with my dad and my mom and my sister. And we had a really beautiful reconnection and we hugged it out. It was an amazing experience. I don't regret the marriage at all. I think that a strength that I have that is also kind of a weakness is that I'm a very adaptable person. You can put me in any environment and I'll find a way to make friends and fit in.
That's an ability that very few people have. However, it can be a double-edged sword. Having the ability to adapt yourself easily in an environment is a sign of instability and not knowing oneself. It is easy to empathize with people, and it drains you quickly. That's when you have to meditate and look at yourself to find out who you are, so you can be grounded, or else you'll just find yourself running away from problems and keep on running away. Once you know yourself, that's when this Achilles heel becomes a great tool. I should know because I'm just like him. Anyways, let's continue.
I was doing that, I may have given off the impression that I wanted to be this amazing Christian man for the rest of my life and dedicate myself to Christ and all that stuff. I'm trying to think if I gave off that impression, or the community and my wife had such strong expectations on me that they kind of projected them on me, and those were the only things that they saw. Being an Asian man, I think a lot of Asians can relate to this. We grew up with a huge lack of love in our households. We're always constantly told how we're doing everything wrong. Our parents never really say that they're proud of us or that they love us. It's always, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you getting better? And I think in a lot of ways that's just their way of expressing love, because that's how our grandparents were to them. Growing up in the US,
some unresolved issues from his childhood. When a man seeks love, he is more vulnerable to be ensnared by a siren. Those who read The Art of Seduction knows what I'm talking about. But for us Christians, it would be a mix of Delilah and Jezebel at the same time. So you know he's in a bad shape. Let's continue.
Seeing how other families treated their kids, it left a huge hole in my heart and a longing for the love that I saw in other families. I may have picked being with my wife because I was more in love with the stability and the feeling of love that I got from their whole entire community. Finally, being in an environment where you're treated like someone who's appreciated, right? And someone who's loved. There's only three ways you can really get to know a person: you have sex with them, you travel together, or you live together.
Yep, there it is. This brother is lost. You can't learn about someone by having sex with them. I don't even know how to explain it. I just need to ask you one thing. How many women over here thought that they knew a man because they slept with him and he ended up abusing them either mentally or physically? Or for men, many of you are the type of woman who prophets said they would prefer to live at the corner of a house top or live with the lion. The only way to learn about someone is spending time with them and talking with them, because as they speak and as you spend time with them, they get more comfortable and they simply be themselves. And even at that, you will never fully know someone because there are things that even they don't know about themselves. And there are things that we don't want to talk about. We are each evolving every single day. So you never know what tomorrow reserves yourself. All you know is that you either are going to get the best version of themselves or the worst. That's a full other video in itself. However, I won't let you go like this. So one thing you have to keep in mind is that someone's character never change. So at least you can base yourself on that. You can only see the character of someone as the days go by. Let's continue.
Because I wasn't able to do any of those, I don't think that if we dated a year more, this all could have been avoided. Everything that showed up in our relationship were things that showed up after we got married and when she felt the security that I was never going to leave because she had the full support of the whole community on her side. And it wasn't until after the proposal where things started going downhill. So I remember 2 months before the wedding.
Sometimes it be like that. Some people see you as a pet, or should I say an NPC, who doesn't have any goals, any aspiration for your own life, where you're just a pawn in the grand scheme of their life. Stay away from those people. They'll make your life miserable, and when you have no use for them, they will throw you away.
I felt that I was dating the church more than I was dating her. She would always prioritize the opinions of the people of the church and what the church thought over my needs and wants as the boyfriend and the husband in my marriage. For example, I could not go out to any bars or clubs because if I were seen there, it would reflect poorly on her and the people at church would say something. I could not go attend other church services because she was a leader at her church, and if somebody caught me at another church, it would make her look bad. It got to the point where when I was by myself going to the gym, I was fearful of interacting with any woman whatsoever for fear of if somebody saw me, what would they tell my wife? How would this come back to me? I just wanted
by running away from problems. What business does a Christian has in a bar? That's the first thing. Also, even if you were not a Christian, bars are for singles. When you choose to be in a relationship, you chose to leave that life behind. Why would you strike a conversation with another woman at the gym if it's not to know how many sets she has left? I truly feel him, because having this amount of pressure from the church is wrong. The church should not be involved in your life like this. Even the pastor is simply there to give you advice. It's not supposed to meddle in your life because it's yours. It's your own family that you're trying to build. Seems like you don't have in control over your own life. I feel like the reason he's telling this is because she may be mouthing him to the congregation, and these unruly Christians kept stepping to put him back in line. I think that's what was happening. The church folks may be the only people they socialize with, so they have a huge influence on him and how he thinks. That may be it, but I could be wrong.
We decided to sit down with the pastor for marriage counseling right before we got married. We actually did that several times before we got married. I think we did it starting from 6 months before the wedding. Every single month, we would meet with the pastor, and I would have meetings with the pastor by myself as well. After we told him the situation, he told us that it's apparent that love is here and we care about each other, but if we continue down this path, the marriage is not going to work. Me, Wes, I have to fully agree and be on board with everything that they teach at the church. If not, that's okay. I should walk away. But by marrying my wife, I am accepting that this is the path that I want to take. Looking back, this is probably the point where I should have walked away. I can admit that this was maybe cowardly behavior on my part, but it was very difficult because I had so many things on my mind. Being in a foreign country with no family, not knowing the language, not having any stability, I had the potential of losing all the stability and community that I built.
So they really had him in a pinch. He was really estranged from his own people, and kudos to him for recognizing that he was unstable himself. And maybe his loss was leading him for real. Like he said before, he thinks that to know someone, you have to have sex with them. His eagerness to do it with that woman blinded his judgment. It's not that everything changed after you got married. After having sex, you changed. You came into the relation accepting to submit to her and the church to have sex, and once you had sex, you didn't feel like doing it anymore. What I meant by not doing it anymore is not doing it, but not wanting to submit. So low key, the bait and switch was done by him, not his wife, because she never changed. She was already using you, using the church against you. The church was already pounding on you. That's what happened. It was already happening. But once he had the joy ride, now he felt different. Now, as if he could think again that he was in a bad situation. If a grown man comes up to you that if you don't do what I say in my church, you better walk away from your marriage, what? And you know she's the one who told him to go consult the pastor. That was not his idea. Those chains were already around your neck. I don't know how you could not feel the weight. And also the pastor, like I said, is there to consult. He only tells you his opinion and tells you what the Bible says. But he has no say on who you marry. If the Bible doesn't tell you no, then you can. No, I mean if you're already married and your husband and wife is still living, then again, you are the one who chooses who you marry. Especially if you're a man. You're the one that goes and asks her to marry you. You're the one who did it. Stupid. That's really stupid. That's what happened when you put sex over your brain. It's like one of my OG once said, sex is truly the least important thing in the relationship when you think about it. After the 30 minutes of doing it, there's still 23 hours and 30 minutes in a day. What do you do by then? So that would be the end of the beginning of the day or the middle of the day. It doesn't matter when. Do you see how much of a chunk you still have left? What does that woman mean to you during that time? Food for thought. Let's continue.
I would have everybody on the church turn on me, which going through the divorce now has clearly shown me.
Nobody turned on you, they never were with you.
And set up roots, you understand how daunting and exhausting it is. Finally, when I found a good area of stability and people who I felt loved me, it was really hard to give that up. Plus, the pressure of what everybody in the church was going to think, and the fact that my family, all of them bought tickets already to come to the wedding. There was just a lot of things going through my head. So my wife and I, we talked about it, and we came to the conclusion that because of love, we're going to fight through it and try to negotiate everything as the marriage progressed, right? Because we love each other. I've never said this openly on my channel, but when I was courting my wife, there was another man who I guess is like another one of her father figures. This guy went to jail in the US for narco trafficking. Now he's a reformed Christian and everything. He came up to me one day and just took me aside and is like, hey, look, if anything bad were to happen to Anna, he gave me the gun fingers and put it on my chest. He's like, I'm going to kill you. He may have said it as a joke. He may have not. This guy went to jail for it, right? He could very easily do something like that again. Ultimately, I decided that I think I should go through with the marriage. I just had too much to lose. It does look like a bad decision, but I did what I believed was the best thing to do at the time.
People get unhappy in marriage the way that people go bankrupt, which is very slowly and then all at once.
So the first 6 months of our marriage were very interesting. It was the first time that either of us have ever lived with a partner before. So our co-living situation actually was pretty good. We didn't have a ton of issues. I'm firmly against yelling at my partner. I know what it's like being on the other side of that and how crappy it feels coming from somebody you love. She never raised her voice at me either. It was all very cordial. But the same topic kept coming up again. Am I dating her or am I dating the church? It just always seemed that she put the needs of the church and the opinions of the people of the church over my needs as a husband and what I wanted out of the marriage. She expected me to fit neatly into her life and she wasn't willing to compromise any of the time she spent at the church.
Another man comes to you talking about he will kill you about your wife. Man, that's crazy. And you saw it as a joke. I would have checked him on the spot. The only human beings that can have a pass for telling me this is either a biological father or her biological brothers. Her cousins and uncles will get checked. Homie, don't play that.
8 months of the relationship, she was working a full-time job. She was an accountant at the local hospital from Monday through Friday, sometimes Saturdays. She would leave at 7 in the morning and come back generally around 6 p.m., but a lot of times at 8 p.m., sometimes at midnight, 1, 2 in the morning because she had to work. For me, it just didn't make a lot of sense because I'm like, why are you working so hard when I'm paying most of the bills? I'm paying for 80% of everything and I don't get to see my wife. Saturdays, she would volunteer at the church because that was important to her. Sundays were mandatory church going days. Afterwards, we would eat with their family or their mom. So we didn't have any time dedicated to us or developing a relationship as a couple. I also had a problem with the fact that every time we would go on a date or a trip, I was planning all the events. If I didn't plan anything, we would not have any time together because she would always prioritize like volunteering from the church, being at the church, being at those services, but she never really put our relationship as a priority. Even the honeymoon, right? We were gone for a month and I paid and planned for every single detail on that honeymoon, where we would go, her visa situation, all of the plane tickets, all of the Airbnbs, the tours, everything. I did everything. When I would be waiting at home for her to come back, I'm like, what do I do? Do I go out and try to meet people?
There you go. You were not her husband, but her pet. No family or friends to rely on, and the only connections you have are her people. You were an easy mark. Sadly, you paid the price for it dearly. Beware of any man or woman who tries to remove you from your friends and family. when you go, when you have good friendships, they will motivate you to keep them. And if they are bad, they are going to tell you their mind, but never force you to do anything.
Hanging out with people from the church, I'm gonna get shit from my wife and she's gonna have a problem with that. I wanna go out and go dancing, but then I know she'll have a problem with that as well. Just to avoid having more issues with my wife, I decided to stay home. This is why I started smoking weed again, because I was at home and I'm like, well, I don't know what time my wife's gonna come home. I can't really go out. So what am I gonna do? I'm just gonna smoke weed and play video games because I have no other way to de-stress. So if she had to work in order for us to pay,
Nah, being the man waiting for your wife to come home when you pay most of the bills is crazy. Why would his wife want to be away from him that much? Think about it. Every guy I know that has a girlfriend who actually loves him knows that the moment he's available or has available times, she will try to monopolize it. And now you tell me she has you at home, but she's never home? Even if you were the one who's always at work, you best believe she will appear at your office with some homemade gourmet.
this is why I eventually asked her to quit her job, because I was like, if the church is something that you're not going to negotiate, then I would rather you get a part-time job so I can actually see my wife and spend more time with her. Because a lot of times it doesn't even really feel like I have a wife. And I started noticing that when we would have disagreements, we would talk about the things that we would need and want in a relationship. She'll tell me that as a Christian woman, these are the things that I need in my relationship. You know, I need you to spend time with my family, go to the church once, twice a week because that's important to me. I need you to show me love this way. I want you to be the provider of the household. I'm shy. I'm a very timid person, so you need to respect my boundaries. And I'm like, okay, that's totally cool. But then every time I would try to ask something from my point of view, things that I would like as a man or things I would like for my culture, right? As soon as she disagreed with it, she would use religion as her argument for her not wanting to do it. So for example, when I told her that some Sundays I don't want to go to church because we work all week and I never get to see my wife, I would like some Sundays for us to be able to spend some time, just her and me. And then she'd be like, okay, well, it's important that we go to church at least once a week. So if we don't go on Sunday, can we go Wednesday nights or Thursday nights? She was so concerned about what people at the church would say if she didn't go, rather than what I was truly asking her, which was just, I wanted to spend more time with my wife. I also found that there was an unequal effort being made to understand the other person's culture. This entire time I was in, I had to learn a new language, adapt to a new culture, adopt a whole new religion.
This is truly sad. This man was neutered by his wife to the point he had to use two of the biggest coping mechanisms affecting men these days: video games and the weed.
And accept all of her family as they were. And it makes me sad that in our 2.5 years together, she has still not had one conversation with my dad or my sister because she always says that her English isn't good enough. And she never learned how to make a Chinese dish. And I'm not saying that she has to be the best at cooks or that she has to be fluent, but after 2.5 years, I'm just like, if you were truly making an effort, you would have something to show for it.
I will see here is a Bible verse that each and every one of us knows. The husband cares for the things of the world to please his wife, and the wife cares for the things of the world to please her husband. In a loving relationship, both parties always seek to please each other. That's the only way for them both to be fulfilled in that
On a
relationship.
business trip, my wife and I were fighting a lot. One evening,
You
I
chose
received
this.
a text from a man from the church who was like a father figure to her and I. Wes, tonight I feel the need to write to you because you and I need to have a conversation. I need to remind you that she isn't alone and that I'm here to care for her and defend her against anyone who harms her, not only physically but mentally as well. When you decided to be with her, nobody forced you. Supposedly, as a mature person, you promised to be with her and not bring her to a life of sadness or contempt. You did it for love, And this love doesn't mean that she has to give up her values that she had since she's known you. I don't know what it's like in the home, but I'm sure that Anna would never harm anybody. Anna is like a baby for the world. Why do you have to bring her into this world where you and I know there's absolutely nothing good? Unless everything that happened to you with God, where we were witnesses, was a lie, I invite you to pray on your relationship and above all your relationship with God. I was angry at the man for meddling in my marriage, but I was so disgusted by the behavior of my wife. I was thinking, what the heck did you tell them to make him want to act this way? How could you go behind my back and tell only your side of the story, because now they have a bad image of me? All the trust that I had in my wife vanished.
Why are you not mad at yourself? When the men came to your face and disrespected you, you allowed it. And now you're mad because they went over the boundaries you never set. Nigga, please.
Are you here in the interest of your husband, or are you trying to get other people to pressure me into thinking that you're right? I think that in any marriage, any issues that you have are discussed in private, and when we're in public, it's you and I against the world. We're a team. But it put such a sour taste in my mouth that I was ready to pull the trigger and separate from my wife. But I didn't think that things would get to this extreme.
¿Cree que usted va a venir aquí a burlarse de todo mundo y hacer lo que le da la gana, a coger a una niña, desubicarla y luego dejarla? Sé que usted aquí de Colombia no conoce sino la parte buena, pero usted acuérdese que sabe que usted está en el país más violento del mundo, maricón hijo de puta. Yo a mi hija todavía la controlo y la mando y yo abro el Instagram y yo tengo las claves y yo por eso miro todo y mantengo pendiente de ella. Y estoy esperando que venga y ojalá me busque. No quiero cogerlo sino para matarlo, marica.
So this is the same man who sent me the threatening text message before. When I received the threat, I sent it over to my wife. The first thing that came out of her mouth was, "Oh man, he didn't mean that. You know, he was angry in the moment." I'm just like, whose side are you on? And all the actions that happened afterwards too. Her talking bad about
Wait, listen. If he calls her his daughter, does she call him daddy?
What? Damn! What? Damn!
to all of her friends and everybody from the church. They wrote a lot of long, horrible comments on my videos, so I eventually had to block them. Going to the immigration office to try to get my visa revoked and get me kicked out of the country. Her sneaking through my Instagram and trying to read all my messages, trying to find proof of infidelity, and all the various lawsuits that they sent at me to delete all the videos on my channel. After this event, I realized that there was no way back, and then I had to proceed with the divorce. So I'm not gonna sit here and say that I was a perfect person, because there were a lot of mistakes that I made in the relationship as well. Maybe I put a lot of false expectations in the beginning, and they had a image of me that wasn't who I was 100%. But I was seeing this French Colombian girl. She said that you never really get to know somebody unless you speak to them in their native language. It's true, because my personality in Spanish and my personality in English are very different.
Language you speak doesn't change you. What that woman was trying to tell you, but you seem to not have understood, may have been the language barrier. Everybody knows about the language barrier. If you're able to speak your mind in multiple languages, that doesn't change who you are. You simply got caught up in their culture and you learned their language to be able to live a certain life that you were not able to live in the United States. And if the language you speak change you who you are, you're simply a liar. And maybe that's the root of all the things that unravel in your life. Being a liar brought you to a woman that you were not supposed to be with. Because if you were true to yourself or true to her, you would never be with her in the first place. You would be in bars, going dancing, and having all the fun all over the world, like the life you tried to live. And you may even be living right now.
The Spanish side of me never really got to see who I truly am, because they never spoke to me in my home language. I wonder if it was me putting a false front up, or them choosing to see only what they wanted to see in me.
Exactly. It was you putting a false front.
I'm just happy knowing that I can get out of the situation with my integrity and honor intact. I didn't do anything to dishonor God. I never cheated on her. I never hit her. I never insulted them. Even when they were doing all these things against me, I never once spoke badly about my wife on my channel or to anybody else. I chose to just walk away and take the high road. Right now, I'm in Thailand and I'm trying to get my life.
What? On the run? This guy is really unstable. This is crazy. Let me look at this channel for a second. He's a passport bro.
What? Huh? What?
Man, everything makes sense now. This guy went to Colombia to find himself a wife. The reason why he wasn't the same in Spanish than his own native language is because he went there to party. It's all his fault. Man, this guy is a loser.